City Council meeting to order. Would you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you and welcome everybody. First item on the agenda is public comments, so this would be the time to come forth and make a comment, preferably something that's not on the agenda. So if there are anyone that would like to come forth and make some kind of public comment this evening, give us some direction, tell us which way to go, how to do things? No? Okay.
Not
Here,
today.
and you got to wait to give me some direction until council comments.
Okay.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may, if you could add one agenda item, we'd like to introduce our new building official.
Hi, you look familiar. I just couldn't picture you with the mask. I kept saying, I know this lady. So why don't we have you introduce yourself now? Will that work?
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Amy Linder. I'm the new Building Codes Administrator. Full 1 week on the job. So about 30 years in public safety, mostly on the fire marshal side. I come to you with previous fire marshal for Eugene Springfield Fire. So looking forward to getting settled and getting going.
You won't get in trouble, just get everything done, right? So you're from Eugene, is that correct?
Correct.
Good. Well, welcome.
Thank
We
you.
love having you here and look forward to a long-term relationship, right? So any building problems, we just send them to you or Roger? Which way do they go?
I think that's mutual. It depends how big the problem is.
Maybe just Jim, how about that? That'll work. All right.
Welcome.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Well, thank you so
for
much, yes.
joining our team.
Yes. Happy to be here. Looking forward to it.
Great.
Got to see her twice today.
Oh, you did, huh?
Oh,
So you
yeah.
must have been in there
She was
getting
already
your
on the
permit.
site at my place, so.
Getting something reviewed?
Yep,
All right.
something.
Yeah, you're gonna be busy for a while, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna keep you busy for a little bit.
Consent calendar, council, how would you like to proceed?
Move that we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as submitted. Any other comments or questions on it? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Okay, let's see, where am I at here? I'll get squared away here. Consideration of approval to amend the city fee schedule. Approval would require adoption of resolution 21-09. Have you had a chance to look at it? There's cost of living increase, Nicole?
So the only thing we are changing with this is our mortgage rate. Many of you probably know we do that each year, and it's based on the MCI. February, we look at that, becomes effective on the March 1st bills. So we know that as the process, our customers know that as a process, and we usually catch up the resolution thereafter. Last time we brought this, maybe not last time, might have been the time before, but we brought it to you previously and you asked for a survey of rates. And so we've provided that along with some other details. When you give a task to someone who loves boats, he did a great job pulling together some extra information. So I don't know if you have any questions.
You know, I was going through this and I was looking and I see that it looks like we're the only ones that don't provide electricity. Is that something, I mean, if that's the survey?
We don't charge for it.
Yeah,
Well,
we do
some places
have-
charge and some don't.
Yeah, we do have access, so like the seafood market has utility service because of the nature of their
Right.
boat out there, and they do get charged for those, the usage of that. But I don't know actually for the rest of the docks if there's.
I don't believe, and Jim can confirm, I don't believe we have separate meters for all of the other hookups. And that's why the overall cost is added into the mortgage rates.
Okay, but some of them here says Newport, South Beach, wherever. Anyways, yes, they have electricity and it's free. And so I just was wondering, okay.
Well, we have power down on the docks though, right?
We do.
So it's included in the fee, so you could say.
It is.
Which
I
we have
think-
very low fees.
I know we
and I
do.
think that's what Finance wanted to point out that our fees are probably inconsistent. I know the last time we tried to do a right sizing of the fees, there was a hue and cry. Because we don't offer some amenities that other places have.
Right.
But I think, at least in my estimation and in the estimation of our finance department, if we don't adjust the fees at some time in the future, it needs to pay for itself and then a little bit more so that we can do upgrades in the future. And there are upgrades that need to be done on the docks.
How far off are we from what it costs us to provide that service and what we actually take in moorage?
I think that's go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, no, I can't answer that, but I can certainly get the information.
I can tell you what we budget. We budget 40,000 annually for moorage fees. And I'm sure we could easily spend more than that in trying to get the facilities upgraded and having services there.
Yeah, no, I mean, just a question. I mean, our intent has always been to have low mortgage fees. At least that's when it started. We can, however, the council would like to go, is to attract boats to be there and more there and be more of an attraction. So if we get into electricity and stuff, we'd have to figure a way to put the meters in there and get that offset in cost. So quite expensive, I presume.
Well, it does create a thing for people to see. I just worry because those expenses on water, when you eventually do have to do upgrades, can be quite costly. More, and we know how just doing roads can be.
Yeah, and I mean, and truthfully, the boardwalk at this point needs some upgrades. I think that it would qualify for urban renewal, I think. At this point, there's some things that need to be repaired and taken care of that are deteriorating. Anyway.
Yeah, I think the capital improvements to that area would be covered under urban renewal.
And we replaced the docks how long ago? Because we went to cement. They used to be wood. We went to cement.
It's been some time. As long as I can remember, it's been some time.
I'm dating myself. Okay, all right.
Last time you were on.
You only dated yourself sometime, so.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, are we happy with the rates? Do we want to come back and revisit them, or just go ahead and adjust them at this time? Or let it go at that?
I move we adopt Resolution 21-09 to amend the city's fee schedule.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve adoption of Resolution 2109, which would amend the city fee schedule, which is for the moorage at this time.
And the only comment that I would make under discussion is that I think, you have to plan to notify those people who use that service. I don't think it would be the appropriate time to do that.
No, I agree. I mean, you'd have to find out, and it'd have to be, yeah, there'd be a cost associated with it. And
Yeah.
all that.
I'd love to hear some input from those who are down there permanently for maybe next year's fee schedule.
So how do they continue to live there with no electricity? So they have a
There
generator?
is electricity there.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
We
they
don't,
can
we
plug
just
in.
don't charge for it. We just-
Oh, okay. So it
So-
should say, yes, we
It's
do
a-
provide it and no cost.
I thought, that's how I read it.
I think when he was looking at those rates, do they split those fees out because it's a provided or,
Okay.
so it could be an interpretation of,
Do we know what the electrical their cost is for electricity down there?
we would know because we have meters, so we can definitely.
Maybe we want to check it out and see where we're at. Maybe we need to adjust it if they're going to do it or something. Anyway.
So it also says that we don't provide water, but we have water down there, don't we?
So
Yes.
again, I know the seafood market has water and there is a meter specifically for that space, but I don't know on the other.
Seems
Sounds
like
like we need to get you some more information.
All right. Okay,
we'll find that out
yep.
for next year's fee schedule.
All right, well, we have a motion and a second for Resolution 2109. Any more comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Next item is consideration of approval of Timber Cove developers wastewater infrastructure cost share. Jim, are you handling this?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you. Good evening. The Timber Cove Manufactured Home Park has been planned and discussed for at least the last 2 years, and it even went through the land use process and was approved by the Planning Commission. Since the inception of the project, though, development and construction costs have increased significantly, so much so that the owners of the project have determined that the project is no longer financially viable. However, their project manager they hired, Brad Woodruff of Red Moon Development and Construction, is interested in buying the property and developing it into a conventional stick-built home development instead of the manufactured home park. If the project moves forward, it would be completed in phases. The first phase would be 138 to 150 homes, and then each phase after that would be in 50 lot increments. Shifting from a manufactured home park to a stick-built subdivision would require the developer to undergo a new land use application process to create the separate platted home lots. Changing Timber Cove project from a manufactured home park to stick-built homes would increase the annual tax revenue for the city. No matter which direction it goes, if it remained a manufactured home park or was a stick-built subdivision, a pump station and a force main to convey sewage to wastewater treatment plant 2 would be required. Under Oregon's law, if it remained a manufactured home park, the pump station can be privately owned and maintained, and that was what was originally proposed. As soon as a wastewater pump station becomes necessary for 2 or more lots, then DEQ law regulations kick in, and they're much more stringent and strict. And so if he moves forward with making it a subdivision, then he'll have to redesign the pump station and the force main. Staff has calculated the cost of design and construction cost of the public portion of the wastewater infrastructure to be about $2.4 million. And Mr. Woodruff has requested the city consider a cost-sharing agreement to fund the design and construction of the public portion of the wastewater infrastructure, that is the pump station and force main. The city's portion would be $1.2 million. If the city was to fund this, the funds would come from the wastewater improvement fund, the emergency and unplanned projects line. The new pump station and force main would be done in lieu of other wastewater projects that we have currently planned. It is possible that the city could get a DEQ state revolving fund loan to finance the city's portion of the project. And so what we're asking is the council would consider authorizing the city manager to enter into a cost-sharing agreement with the developer of Timber Cove for the city to contribute up to $1.2 million for design and construction of the public wastewater system.
So does this have to go back before the planning commission since it's going to change the use, or will?
If it was a subdivision, it would.
Okay.
He's just trying to determine if this is an option to make it pencil out before he applies.
Right.
Actually, I think he does believe the total project will pencil out if we participate on the wastewater side. Obviously, the addition of 300 to 400 homes up there would help. That could pay back those funds through wastewater rates in the future. I think our first at-risk portion of this would be for the design, that nothing can happen before the design. It's my understanding that he plans and is already in progress to put together the land use application. He has someone working on it now. And they're going to be moving forward with at-risk site development grading based on their other permit.
So he's going to move forward and getting ready to go for the planning commission, but we need to get the design on the pump station and force main, correct?
Correct. I think most of it would grind to a halt if we weren't willing to participate.
So hasn't it long been a policy of the city that the developer pay for their development costs?
Yes and no. In actuality, Coos Bay Village is an excellent example of that. The development cost for the intersection is in essence being funded by the city, and that would normally be a cost of the developer. On some projects, when the development cost or the off-site development costs exceed the ability to actually make it pencil out, we've stepped in.
I see that as a little bit different, though. That's an urban renewal project, and this is not. And this is money coming from the wastewater improvement fund, which is basically built by the ratepayers, because you know, that's what we collect the rates for. I remember, I can't remember the name of it, Mike Gaudette's subdivision. Did we pay any of that?
Not to my knowledge.
And when Marv Palmer developed all of that area down in there next to Gaudette's, did we pay any of that?
Not to my knowledge.
So I'm just wondering why does this become the exception, and why do we ask the ratepayers that are paying their sewer bill, and mine's too high and so is everybody else's, $1.2 million so a private developer can develop a piece of property?
Yeah, I think those are all excellent questions. I would go out on a limb and tell you that at the time that Gaudette put his properties in and Mark Palmer put his in, you weren't in the same predicament that you are in today with a low housing stock. And in addition, I think if we look forward, and let's just say we got 300 homes up there, that's 300 more rate users that are going to be paying into the system, and therefore will be able to absorb future increases. We can spread them out and not have them as intense.
So you're making the assumption that those 300 houses are going to get built.
I am.
How many times have we had developers walk away from projects
It does happen.
that we have helped commit to as well? So where are our guarantees? Where's the guarantee to the ratepayers of this city? If this guy walks away and we've spent $500,000 on design and the beginning phases of construction?
Well, you certainly could request, and we've done this before, where we request a safety net feature that you could commit to the design, and that if he doesn't move forward, that he repays you, or we don't pay back until after the completion of first phase.
Well, I know you've been very creative in crafting deals with developers in the past, and I would trust you to come up with something that would protect the city, because I really worry about the fallout from this if we invest $1.2 million and then he walks away.
Yeah, but we're proportionally moving along. The only outlay we would have is $200,000, my understanding, Phil. The rest, we would participate equally until it's built out. Am I correct?
But that's not what I read here, and that's why I'm trying to get some clarification.
Yeah, it's my understanding that actually the design has to come first on that. And I don't believe he's willing to move forward with the project, at least as I understand it, unless there is some cost-sharing agreement. I would also say that any design work that gets done, none of that property, that 70 acres, will ever be developed if we don't include some type of wastewater connection. If there one is established. So having the design will probably be critical if he doesn't move forward even.
I think that Councilor Marlar makes some very good points. Just something else to think about. First of all, we're looking at up to 1.2. It may not cost that much. Anything over would be borne by the developer. But I think it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago when I attended a League of Oregon Cities annual event, housing was the big topic that year. So it might have been 3 years, not 4. But there were all sorts of creative things being laid out on the table to try and incentivize, because it's not just housing is not just an issue in Coos Bay, it's an issue everywhere across the country. And I remember specifically someone talking about system development charges and incentivizing by actually, foregoing those charges, which help build these things, these connections. Well, we have a moratorium on them. So we have to be creative in how we do that. That was a fairly common practice in cities that do have SDCs. And because we have that moratorium, we have to look at other ways. And development of the pump station and connection not only will help develop that property, even if this gentleman doesn't move forward, but it also creates a better system for the users along that area, or
No, I think it's a closed system.
it is, okay.
With a force main. That pump station would only serve that 70 acres, although when you look at it, we have pump stations that serve less homes than that one.
When we did, or when the development, let's say with Mr. Gaudette, was the development for the wastewater system for that particular development, was it as intense as this one is?
It's not as intense, but he did have to put in some main lines because he didn't have roads in that area as well.
But he's going to put his own roads in, right?
Correct.
So the other development costs he's going to be paying.
In addition to, he would also be putting the wastewater infrastructure from those homes up to the pump station.
Right, so it's not like he's doing development costs.
Do we charge new sewer connections?
Yes.
Yes.
So every house he builds, they're gonna pay a connection fee to connect to that main?
And it's no small fee, in my
No,
recollection.
I get it. So he's gonna install all of the mains. Am I saying that right?
Right, the sewer mains and the lateral.
This is only for the pump station.
This is for the pump station and then the downstream
Force main?
force main, thank you.
So as he builds this first 150 homes, he's gonna pay a sewer connection for every home
That's correct.
connect into that, to connect into that main.
That's correct.
And plus, he's gonna pay the water board a fee for the water meter.
Well, that's up to the water board, if they want to let him go.
Yeah,
ahead and do that, but I don't think-
saying, I'm just trying to run all this in
I
my
don't think the
head.
water board has ever given an exception that I'm aware
Yeah,
of.
I don't know either. So, I guess I just wanna go on record to say if we do this, I really don't expect him to come back and ask for forgiveness for sewer connections.
Agreed.
And the way I look at this is, if we don't do this, this project probably won't happen. And if we do this, we're helping incentivize him to do that. And we've done that in many instances. And the upside for us is, first of all, housing is an issue that we need to resolve in this community. And he was trying to get there in another fashion. With a modular home, manufactured home park, in my opinion, building the stick homes is better because it brings a tax base in that would not bring it to us.
Yep.
Question on the housing, was that factored into the consideration, that 400, those 400 units against what we needed in this community from the housing
Yep.
study?
Mhm.
So-
It definitely does.
So if this project doesn't move forward in some fashion, then that number of need is going to be even larger.
And I'm assuming you're referencing the most recent buildable lands and housing needs assessment that was done by the city.
Yeah.
So, and I believe the housing needs assessment projected you needed,
600-ish.
yeah, housing for the next 20 years.
With
but-
that 400 units already factored in?
No,
That
that's
included.
part of it, but.
But that
only
was going to check off a big box.
Yeah, that only projects our need. I think the housing survey that was done 2017 projected well over 1,100 for the entire community. The city's leading the charge on building homes, and so those people that needed it out in the county will be coming into the city.
The
And-
600 units, that was with no consideration given to projects that were booked, only things that were already standing and completed. So the 600 is not a moving number.
So moving this project forward is a win for the community, basically. Another question on the housing, do we know what kind of housing is, are we talking moderate, affordable?
He thought that it'd actually be more affordable. It's more affordable to build. And that's partly because not only the development cost, it is the cost for manufactured homes have skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Feel
No,
like-
I agree with you, Phil. I mean, I understand your concern, and rightfully so. But I just think this is a way. And another thing, Mr. Woodruff, he's not a new developer in this area.
No, he's got a great track record.
Right, and yeah,
You
so-
know, the internet's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So I'm well familiar with what he's done in other cities.
No, I mean here.
And here.
Yeah, he's done, how many
Well,
homes here?
he's got a big one going on right now.
Yeah.
On the bay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's working on, in 4 different subdivisions.
In Coos Bay.
So I guess my, part of my concern or hesitancy is the bucket the money's coming from. And I realize that's a logical place for it, but, you know, we've really tried really hard the last 4 or 5 years to take care of the infrastructure we have, and this is gonna rob $1.2 million from projects that are already on the board. And that's my dilemma, is that we really have a need for $20 million and, you know, that we don't have, and we're taking 1.2 from some project that was gonna get done this year, and now it's not. And I guess that's part of my concern. You know, all the arguments make sense to me. I know that the tax base will go up. I know that all those things will happen. It's just, and I don't know where else you could find the money from. So that's my, I don't want, when we do our rate study, I don't want the consultant to come back and say, well, you know, you're now $1.2 million behind because you did this project you hadn't planned on, and instead of 5.8%, it now needs to be 6.2 or whatever. You know
Sure.
what I'm saying?
I think it's more financially feasible to actually look towards the DEQ loan so you could spread out that cost over a number of years instead of.
And I would be I would feel a lot more at ease if we knew that was an avenue.
That's
than
what I was
anything
gonna
else.
ask, do we have that option? And is a great possibility to do that, because, you know, we're gonna be looking at recouping that 1.2 through rates, and that's gonna take some time. I mean, I don't, in my simple mind, I can't figure out how that's gonna pencil out and how many years that's gonna take, but, maybe the loan option would give us the option of spreading that out.
And that still gives you the opportunity to undertake, if you have other needed emergent projects to undertake, instead of putting them off a year.
So is the DEQ State Revolving Fund loan program the same one that we're doing, where we're getting water treatment or water deferment-based projects in lieu of interest? Is that the same DEQ fund or loan program?
I think it's the same program. We still have to go before what they call a first stop meeting with the
Yeah.
agencies. But they do have that program. They don't defer all of the interest. They lower the interest to make it more affordable.
You know, 1.2 on the loan, they knock 1% off and we get whatever it is.
We
You know,
have
it's just,
some pretty attractive loans right now at
Yeah.
1%, I believe.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, 100%.
I
so
would
they
hope
might
we
not
could
do
get
that.
some of that,
Yeah, they might not drop it down, but the way I look at this is that is buildable lands that it's a pretty desirable spot for us to get some homes on. And if we get the infrastructure there, even if Mr. Woodruff didn't do the development, maybe it would be attractive to somebody else as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the bottom line is if we don't do this, the development's not gonna happen. That's pretty
Yeah.
simple.
We need
Yeah, so
homes.
if you figure that what's needed in this community and the possibility of us putting this investment is how I'm looking at, it's gonna pay back, not upfront immediately, but it'll definitely pay back. And also with the federal government coming out with some infrastructure money available to cities, and one of them is infrastructure for housing, we might be able to, I'm not sure if the time frame would work, because I know it still has to go through Congress to get passed, but it might be available to us. Even Plant One might be available to us, which would be helping offset some of those costs, but those are available because you're looking at wastewater. I was on a conference call with Congressman DeFazio, and that was all discussed about options available. So,
So I guess I would like to ask just a couple more questions, and then I'm done. I'm sure you and staff and maybe even the mayor have had meetings with Mr. Woodruff.
and I have.
What's your comfort level? You pretty confident that this is gonna happen?
I'm fairly confident. He's undertaken quite a few projects, and the only thing that's holding him up is the permitting process.
Okay.
I mean,
So-
He's actually purchased property and is building his own home here.
So this indicates that we're gonna enter into some sort of agreement. Will that agreement come back to us?
It certainly can.
I guess I would just like to ask, if the rest of the council is agreeable, that some sort of safeguard be built in there, that if we invest 1.2 million and then he decides he doesn't want to do it and turns around and sells the property, we at least have some way to recoup some or all of this 1.2 that we invested in him that he didn't do.
I'm comfortable, if the council's comfortable, that you could put that on staff and make it subject to the approval of the city attorney.
And it says proposed cost-sharing agreement.
Right.
My understanding from that terminology is that we're going to be cost-sharing the 2.4. Our cost-sharing portion of that would be 1.2.
Right. So we don't invest till he invests.
Exactly. Now, when I inquired with Roger, he said that what we could be possibly out of pocket is the 200,000 because we have to do the design. But anything more than that would not be out of pocket until he starts participating in the development and the cost, if I understood you correctly.
You're correct. In brief conversation with the city attorney, we think we could possibly include some language for a lien option on the property.
And
Okay.
having plans ready for potential developments was one of the recommendations of the state in House Bill 2001. So doing that, we're in compliance with the direction the state already gave through the legislature. And to the point of the housing issue at an LOC meeting, that could have been any of the last 4 or 5. It has not left the table, ever.
Well, I guess I would just say I'm cautiously optimistic. Is that a good way to put it?
That sounds good.
I do like
Rightly
contingent dollars.
No,
So
I think,
thank you for
I think
letting me-
incentivizing too is something that the Housing Advisory Committee is, has been a proponent of as well, based on the Senate bills or House bills. I always get them mixed up. But good questions, Counselor Marlin.
Thank you for letting me air that out.
Anytime.
It makes me feel better.
No. Comments, others? Rob? Anyone else?
Well, I had some of the same concerns as Phil did, but like you said, Mayor, I think if we don't do this, then the project comes to a halt, and I think that would be a terrible thing, because I think this can be a real benefit to the city if it goes through. But I agree with Phil, I do think we need some kind of safety net where we don't pay until a certain portion is done, completed.
So good. Nate's here, so he understands the terminology or the information that we'd like to have in there to be comfortable.
We'll get it done.
So,
There you go.
so with that being said, you need us to make a motion on this? So, Phil, you want to do that?
I'm trying to get it to come back up anymore.
I
I know.
authorize the city manager to enter into a cost-sharing agreement with the developer of Timber Cove for the city to contribute up to $1.2 million for design and construction of a public wastewater pump station and force main.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second to approve an agreement with Timber Cove Developers Wastewater Infrastructure Cost Sharing Request. Just one more comment. Another thing that feel pretty good about this, there's 4 of the sites in this area that he's developing. One's already on its way, and the other 3 are in the process. So, and so it's nice to have developers that want to participate and work and do this here. And
Oh, absolutely.
so I think we're fortunate to have Mr. Woodruff in our community. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. All right. Consideration, I'm spinning here. Consideration and approval employment agreement for the city manager. So, Roger, Nate,
Yeah, I'll be taking this one.
it's rare. I don't hear you in here very often.
Well, I'm just a quiet type. A little over 30 years ago, Roger Craddock began his association with the city when he was sworn in as a reserve officer by former Chief Raleigh Payne. Shows you how far back it goes.
Wow.
That's a ways
Mr.
back.
Craddock served as a volunteer from March 15, 91 until November 15, 95, when he became a full-time employee in the police department. Nearly all of the employees that were here when he began employment with the city have since retired. While he was eligible to retire 2 years ago, he has delayed that retirement to continue to serve the citizens of Coos Bay as our city manager. As with all departments, succession planning is key to the continued success of the city as a whole, so a phased retirement has been developed. With council support, this phased plan would result in final retirement date in a little over 3 years, I believe June of 2024.
Correct.
While it is Mr. Craddock's desire to continue serving the council and the city until June 30, 2024, he would like to take advantage of beginning his PERS retirement, beginning July 1, 2021, which is coming up in a couple of months. Legislation enacted into law in 2019, SB 1049, allows public employees to retain a PERS retiree full-time through the end of 2024 in an effort to slow the increase of employee PERS contribution rates. Retaining a PERS retiree lessens the overall PERS cost for the employer, the city, for that employee, and the amount which is contributed is credited towards the employer's unfunded liability account. While the proposed employment agreement is for 3 years, it can be terminated by vote of a majority of the council, just as it can now, at a duly authorized public meeting, any time during that 3-year period. It should also be noted that the proposed employment agreement provides fewer benefits than the existing employment agreement. The budget implications, because of the PERS situation over the course, the proposed employment agreement has an estimated annual savings to the city of $15,000. So it'd be a total of $45,000 over the 3 years. And you have a copy of the employment agreement. It's this request that the council approve the city manager's 3-year employment agreement commencing July 1, 2021 and ending June 30, 2024. Questions?
Well, I think it's a good agreement. I'm glad Roger wants to continue on as city manager. It's also a cost savings to us. And what you could have retired 2 years ago, but since you were happy with this council, you decided to stay on.
That is
I'm just
correct.
going to accept that.
Thank you.
Well put.
So anyway, I'm pleased with it. I'm pleased that Roger wants to stay, but council, want to chime in?
Absolutely, me too.
I agree.
We can't veto the retirement, so we'll do this.
Yeah.
Well, and I understand that, with the way that the laws have changed and the way that things are headed with PERS, you kind of have to get ahead of it and jump on this right now.
Correct.
So it's unfortunate that we've now, lit the light at the end of the tunnel, and I don't want you to leave.
I, think that Councilor Marlar said it earlier, you've been creative, but the other thing that I like about our city manager is that he's a planner and he's a thinker, and this just shows really good management in a succession plan and working with staff. As a citizen, I just sat out there. I did attend meetings, and I always thought, well, this could be done. It's not that hard, But sitting here, seeing what our folks do, this only makes sense. This is standard procedure, and it's good planning, and I'm in favor.
Me too.
I mean, if we're going to lose you,
I like to think that 2 years ago, he was ready to retire, and then Carmen and I got up there.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's the way I like to look at it too.
all right, of course you do. Good comment. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the city manager's 3-year employment agreement commencing July 1, 2021, and ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the employment agreement for the city manager. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
One more time, does anyone want to make a public comment? I saw you came in. Anything on public comments from anyone? Yes? No? Okay. Good. Well, thank you and welcome. Roger, city manager report.
Well, it seems appropriate first that I thank you for that action. It's difficult for me to start thinking about retirement. It got here far too quick. I was always told it would be quick, and time's gone by really quick for me. And it's difficult to start thinking about that next phase of my life, but since we've been doing it in all the other departments and looking at succession planning, it only makes sense to do it in my office as well. And I am indeed fortunate to work for such a great group of people, but also equally to have a great staff.
Mm-hmm.
It would be far easier to leave in a more difficult situation than we have. Also, I would like to convey my thanks to the council and to the members of the budget committee. You put a tremendous amount of time in the other night, and I know that that was just a small portion of the time that you took in doing preparation for the meeting for that. It's not easy to go through that many pages and to look at that, but I think it was easier because this council is experienced in reviewing the budget, and we use a standard procedure. The rail improvements down at Hemlock and Highway 101 intersection have been completed. As far as the rail goes, the signaling still has to be done. My understanding they're still on track to do the rest of that intersection improvement and hopefully be done within the next 6 weeks.
Nice.
That's very aggressive. Some of us are concerned and that they're going to meet that timeline, but others, I mean, there's a lot riding, and no pun intended on that improvement, because there's buildings going up, and more people want to occupy those buildings, but the only thing that's preventing them is having that increased access into the property. Over the weekend, Face Rock Creamery actually began celebrating their grand opening down there, and they'll continue for the rest of the week. In addition, there's a new store going in where Marshfield Bargain House or Marshfield Mercantile used to be, and that's Real Deal Store. They're scheduled to open on the 28th of this month. And then a little sadder note, you know, it's always difficult when you're doing road improvements because you just don't know what you're going to find when you go to pull off a road. Knife River and city staff are up working on Prefontaine currently. And you would think, well, that's got to be one of our newer roads. Jim and I were sitting there talking about it, and he said, well, was it here when you started? And I said, well, yeah, it was here when I started. So that means it has to be over 30 years. But when they went to pull off, and their plan was to pull off 2 inches of asphalt and put new asphalt, well, they learned that there's only 2 inches of asphalt. That is the road. There is no road base. It's on native soils. Most of it is in fairly good shape as far as the roadbed on the native soils, but there are some areas that need to be mitigated. As an alternate, instead of having to pull all that out, put in a whole new roadbed, they're going to go ahead and just fix some areas that are troublesome with soils, and then put a 3-inch asphalt overlay. If it lasted more than 30 years in its current condition, it'll last more than 30 when we do this. But my understanding is the same with Kentucky, which was put in at about the same time.
Wow.
So that additional 1-inch overlay is probably going to come out somewhere in the neighborhood of $28,000.
Right.
That's a huge turn from what you usually find under the roads.
Yeah, at least this time it wasn't burnt up stumps and other things, car parts. So, but I think that's just what we're having to deal with. We're fortunate that some streets have lasted nearly 100 years. Those were those concrete streets. They're just, they were ending their lifespan, but the council's made a great progress in infrastructure stewardship, and the proposed budget, I think we showed, includes another $5 million in investment infrastructure with wastewater, storm drains, and streets. And that concludes my report.
So just a quick check, but if I'm correct, it looks like the first house on Prefontaine was built in 1980. Which means the street probably went in 78, 79, or 80, somewhere along in there. So, yeah,
We get the same useful life, and those that follow you many years from now will be having that same conversation.
Probably.
oh wait, here's one built in 1979. So.
Yep.
That's been around a while.
Over 40 years.
Since you talked about Front Street, the building that we are going to be tearing down, have we got a bid back on that? We went out for bids, did we not?
Not yet.
Oh, we haven't?
No, we're still waiting on the RAP, the DEQ review.
Really? Do we have any idea?
Well, we'd like to say that they would do something quickly, but I think we keep getting responses that they're going to get something to us quickly, and we get the standard response that most of their attention's been turned to remediation of the fires from last year and in the Talent, Medford, Phoenix areas, and then up over the hill into eastern Oregon.
But we started this before the fires.
Oh, yes. Yeah, this is just the final review. I think we're well along the way. Of course, we have the prospective purchase agreement completed and done, and this was just mostly the remediation plan. There's been a lot of back and forth to get it to where it is, and I think it's on its final review.
Okay, because this is what, we've been working on this for 5 years, correct?
Correct.
Good
4 to
long
5
time.
years.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is sad because we will only move forward, hopefully get it done. One other thing, since I frequently walk down Front Street, so the dump station markers are past where they should be entering in, what is that, right there by Sauce Brothers, that street? Because that's the best way to go. What's happening is they're going down because it says, turn here. You're turning, and then having to come around and make a U-turn to access the dump station. Maybe we need to try to fix
Looks like it's
that.
being put on our list.
Okay.
And is it possible to have a bigger sign that's a little easier to read? I think it's a smaller sign, isn't it?
I think we'll have to double check with ODOT. The signage on 101
That'll
is
be
controlled by ODOT.
Yeah, it's just difficult for them to make a U-turn with a trailer around there and with all the, cars and stuff and the tracks, so it makes it difficult sometimes. All right, council comments. Drew?
I will wish Roger's wife good luck planning for his retirement and knowing that he's leaving us in good hands eventually, but appreciate that he's staying on for the next 3 years. That's all I got.
Okay, Carmen.
I also want to thank Roger for planning and having the city, their best interest in mind, and also all the work that you and your team do here at the city. You guys do an amazing job, so we're all very, very thankful. Also, I heard about the tragedy that happened downtown earlier today, and I just want to send my condolences to everyone involved and their families and their friends. We're thinking of you. And yeah, my heart goes out to everybody involved. That's it.
Thanks, Carmen. Phil?
Same here. That was a very sad incident. But I also want to say thank you to Roger. I've known Roger for a long time. Maybe as long as I set foot in this town about 4 months after you did. So we've known each other for a very, very long time, since when he was with the police department, and have had a lot of respect for Roger many, many years, and I know that your heart is with this city and in its best interests, and thank you for all you do. We try to contribute our little part to make things a little easier for you by being a council to give you the right direction. But you certainly take those directions and run with them, and we appreciate that. I just want to say some of my comments earlier, I wasn't trying to be negative. I was just trying to make sure that we thought about everything, that we considered all the possibilities, and I really, truly am trying to look out for what's best for the citizens. And I do know that we need the houses. And there's no doubt in my mind we need those houses. So I'm hoping that this moves forward and he gets that subdivision built. That's all I have.
Thanks, Phil. Stephanie?
And I just want to say that I always appreciate when you do bring up comments. That's what we're elected to do, is represent those thoughts that may come from our citizens, and you should never apologize for that, but that's just my 2 cents. Again, there's not much more that I can add, Roger, to what I said before. You are very creative, and you are a good planner, and the success that we're having with this city is because you're a great leader for a very large number of folks who do a really good job around here, and I appreciate that. Question on the pothole repairs and the street works that's happening. We're seeing a lot of that happening. I'm already getting comments from the public on some of those areas that were repaired already. So that is in full swing?
It is, and I know Jim and I had a conversation where we've had a couple people out, but we'd sure like to get a little bit more public safety notices out to let people know where that work's happening, not only for vehicular safety, but to share with the public what the city's doing with their dollars to fix the infrastructure that need.
Okay, I think that would be a good, one of the concerns I have also heard is that the grinding is happening and then a long period of time is transpiring between when that's actually happening. In one area, it's been over a week, but it's probably because it's a Prefontaine issue that we're having up there. And is there any way to put some sort of warning out when that happens so that people aren't hitting those?
Yes, we need to. I think part of the issue is that we're doing, the city crews are doing the grinding because we have the machine and can save dollars. And then once we get a set number of areas done, then the paving crew comes in and does all of them at one time.
Okay.
But warning signs is more than appropriate.
Yeah, okay, perfect. That answers my question and my concern. And then you mentioned the budget. I don't know if it's some magical thing that happens after you've been sitting on the council for a while, but things start to make sense. I actually think that it's how it was presented. And I also want to compliment Councilor Farmer on running an excellent meeting. And Nicole, who I know, provided a lot of information, not only made it easy for us as the council, but also for our new members of the budget committee to understand what was going on, and all that work that happened to lay that out. I really think that's what made the difference in how we were able to accomplish that task of, $70 million budget in one day. So kudos. That's all I have.
Rob?
First, I want to remind everybody that the Coos Bay Public Library is reopened for limited browsing on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 1 and 4 to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 3 to 6 p.m. And then lastly, I echo everything that you guys all said about Roger. I think he's a true asset to the city. I hear it from community leaders throughout the area on how lucky we are to have you, and I agree with that. And I just want to let you know that in 3 years when you retire, when you get bored with bowling, I have plenty of stuff to do at my house.
Like Dina won't have enough things for him to do, right? Anything
That's
else?
it.
So I'll just echo what everyone else says. I work with Roger, and it's fortunate to be able to do that. I've had other city managers, and Roger's a pleasure to work with him. Gives us direction and help, and works, just, I can't say enough. It's been great. And I look forward to the next 3 years and what we can accomplish. I mean, if you go back and think about 5 years ago when we got elected, some of us, and then 2 years after that, the others, what we've accomplished has been amazing. And Roger's had great staff that he's worked with to help that happen. And, so it's wonderful. Like our budget in the finance department to put it together. Roger and the budget committee went, well, as Stephanie mentioned, $70 million. And Phil, I want you, not just you, I think it's important that you make comments anytime, and any counselor. That's what makes it special. I don't want anyone to be hesitant on making any comment here, whatever it may be. Discuss it, and that's what's important. And I hope that no one ever feels that they have to be cautious on what they say here.
I agree.
Please don't. Anyway, those are the end of my comments, and we do
I
have...
have one more question.
Absolutely.
I got the notice that commercial is going to have one lane closed in front of the World newspaper.
They're doing
Some trees are going to come out.
They're going to do some work on it.
I think the sidewalks need to be replaced.
Are the sidewalks coming out too?
That'll be next, but this work is for taking out the trees.
Taking down the trees? So I also walk a good bit downtown, and as I'm walking down that area, you can't walk, you can barely get one person through there because those trees are so big. You can't walk two people side by side. Are we gonna plan on not having trees moving forward because that sidewalk is so narrow?
I'll have to check and see. I believe the street trees are part of the streetscape in that area. They just don't need to be that large.
If somebody was in a wheelchair, they'd have a hard time getting by.
Maybe we could just ask the newspaper to give us an extra part of their sidewalk. We're not
don't
seeing a
have that
commitment yet.
We've spent a lot of time discussing ADA compliant corners, but our sidewalks aren't ADA compliant. And I just want to make sure, if we're going to go to the trouble of tearing out trees and sidewalks, we should put something back that's ADA compliant.
Excellent observation.
My two, sorry.
No, that's good. Any other comments by anyone? All right. That being the case, we will be going into urban renewal, but I'll adjourn the Coos Bay City Council meeting.
All right, and if you're all okay with just motoring on through, we'll call the Coos Bay Urban Renewal Agency meeting to order on this day. And our first item on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any public comments from the audience or anything that has been written in? All right, then we'll move on to the consent calendar, and how do the board members wish to proceed?
I'll make the motion, we approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is consideration of a supplemental budget for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Approval will require adoption of Resolution 21-04. Are you taking that, Nicole?
I am, thank you. So the purpose of this resolution is to appropriate funds we received related to the Egyptian Theater. We had appropriation authority already in our kind of urban renewal projects, but now that we've received both grant that came to us as kind of passed through, and then also the preservation group had some donations, which they helped to fund that project. So that's the bulk of what we're doing here, and then we're doing a little bit of cleanup between line items. As we know, that improvement program is going gangbusters in downtown, so we're getting a little bit more funds in there, moving from an area we're probably not going to spend dollars into that area, and just a couple other little things there.
Okay. Are there any questions? All right, then how would the board like to proceed with this item? I would
Move
Entertain
that
a
we
motion.
approve adoption of Resolution 21-04, a supplemental budget for fiscal year 2020 to 2021.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve adoption of Resolution 21-04, supplemental budget for fiscal year 2020, 2021. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
And any other business to come before the agency? Then we are adjourned.
And now we're on the dot.
Wow.
See, Rob,
It's because
meetings
Phil
can
didn't
go
have any
quickly here.
questions.